Hey guys, I'm Emily. I am the relationship coach here at the Couples Workshop. Today we're going to talk about how to prepare for a baby. You've gotten to the point of your relationship where you want to start a family, or maybe you had your first kid and you want to reflect a little bit and touch base before your second. I have a resource that I want to recommend to you to help you answer some of those questions, give you guys some talking points to touch base on before baby arrives. So the tool here is 52 questions before baby. It's developed through the Gottman Institute. Of course, I always talk about Gottman Institute, you guys know. But they have a lot of resources for you to do at home on your own. So let's explore these a bit here. The back is super corny. It's first it's a deck of cards, and then it says, "Is a baby in the cards for you?" It goes further. They're not done with the puns. These 52 cards give you a helping hand when thinking about having a child. Oh, thanks, Gottmans. Okay, so you open these up, and the first two of the deck are the guidelines, like the instructions to help you through the questions, and they are joker cards. Let's actually go through the instructions. So my hope for this video is, if you do choose to buy these cards, great. If not, I want to give you enough information now that you can start the conversation together on your own. Maybe you don't want to purchase the cards. Maybe you want to feel it out before you want to pay for them. Either way, I still want to be able to give you a little bit of insight before jumping in. Okay, joker card number 1. If you are thinking about having a child with a partner, good communication is key to a successful family. These cards encourage open discussion about having a child before issues become emotionally charged. If you are thinking about parenting solo, these questions will guide you to think through how you envision your family. There are no right or wrong answers. Your replies are simply a guide for the family you want. Don't let preconceived judgments get in the way of exploring what you feel. Your ideas, attitudes, and opinions are not set in stone and may change over time. You may want to go back and revisit previously considered topics. Card number 2. If you are working through the cards with a partner, don't argue if your answers are different. Hear what is being said and absorb it. If you reach an impasse, take a break and come back to the question later. You might not want to address certain issues. Think through why. Don't rush. Pick a card, discuss it, and when you've exhausted the topic, move on to the next card. You may cover several cards at once or spread them out over time. Have fun. So the cards, they really are set up like a card deck. So you have the hearts that are love, clubs are social topics, spades are work topics, and diamond are money topics. So it breaks it down for you a bit. So how about we start with love? I'll share some of the first cards that come up, and you guys can then choose which ones you want to start at home, or again, maybe you want to purchase the whole deck. So the cards here. Okay, let's pick a good one. Give me a sec. Okay, I've narrowed the heart pack of the deck down to about 6 here. So I took out about half. I know. I know, I like to be thorough. But the card decks, as I'm reading through them, do tend to go in a sort of order, where the lower cards are kind of easing into what it would be like to have a kid, versus like a king is like, okay, we have a kid, what do we do to maintain more. So let's jump in so you actually have the actual examples. So 3 of hearts. The question is being a parent something you truly want, or is having a child something you feel you are supposed to do? In what ways are you emotionally prepared to parent? What is the longest period of time you have spent with a baby? How about a toddler, preschooler, preteen, or teen? I like this question because it helps bring to light some more realism about having a kid. There are some people who feel pressure to be a parent, that it's something that they are supposed to do. It's something that they've always wanted to do. They've prepared for this. And then on the other hand, there's people who may not feel as prepared but still have a calling to having a kid. So really start exploring what that looks like, how your upbringing may have differed from your partner's, especially on what it looks like to have a family of your own. 4 of hearts. Which of your qualities are best suited for parenting? Which do you feel need improvement? We all have things, right? And then what do you anticipate as the biggest challenge in parenting? So a little more self-reflection then. See how those cards are back to back. It's more about taking that first card, the 3, of what it was like growing up, maybe look into some things that were already written for you, to now, okay, what about me would make me a great mom? What about me would make a great dad? And talk about that. What similarities do you have with your partner? Are there differences? How do your strengths align? And what that would really look like. This is an exciting card that you can really work on, especially then those qualities of, oh, hey, maybe I'm a little too impatient to have a toddler running around, or different things that you then want to work on in order to be the best parent that you want to be. Again, we're human. Life is life. And if we can still have ways to prepare and connect in this preparation, that's going to be an ideal tool to help you move forward then in your relationship into parenting. Let's tackle the next heart card here. 8 of hearts. What are your core child-rearing philosophies, styles, and techniques? So the example here is a set time schedule versus baby demand, discipline, physical versus verbal, or reward versus punishment. Maybe talk about how you were raised. What do you think was helpful, and what do you think you would change? And then, of course, hear your partner's side. Like the instructions say, it's not right or wrong here. It's about exploring what that truth is for them and how that will look if you do decide to have a kid. 9 of hearts. Who can help you raise your child? Which community and or family can you draw on for advice and support? What feelings arise when you think of taking care of an infant or a child by yourself? So again, as we're getting through this deck, getting more practical, really breaking it down. You have busy lives right now. That's going to be exemplified with a child in your life. So planning ahead a bit on how you can do that effectively. Who can you rely on for help and assistance? Even just guidance and support to bounce some ideas off of. Get that list going, and maybe you even want to talk to them starting now to see what advice they have before starting a family. Jack of Hearts. What aspect of your childhood would you like to emulate? What aspect would you like to be different for your child? So this is similar to that question about child rearing, but even more examples. So maybe you had a nanny or a babysitter that you really loved and gave you some time to explore yourself. Cool. Maybe that's something you want to have in your life. Or maybe your partner didn't have that. So what would that look like then? and really share those stories with your partner. So if you want that, it's gonna help them get more of the picture too. And the King of Hearts, the last one of the deck. If you have a partner, how will you nourish your relationship as a couple when there is a child vying for your attention and affection? Huge. This is huge. I totally understand why this is the King of Hearts. Your relationship will be changing. And above all, you're not just parents, you're partners too. You have to continue to give to that relationship. You have to continue to date your partner, explore that relationship, love them, show them intimacy, show them more points of connection in order to keep that relationship strong and healthy, while you're also giving that to a child. That's a lot to give. So how can you plan for that now? Setting date nights or balancing that with really good self-care. That's going to be a really solid place to start to also bring light to your relationship changing when you have a baby in the home. Let's explore some more cards. The second suit of the deck are the clubs, which stands for the social category. The first card I pulled was the ace. How will having a child change your lifestyle? The example here is smoking, drug use, sleep hours, work hours, free time, etc. The second question, what do you need to change in your environment to create a more healthy space? An example is safety, air quality, etc. So for the first part of the question on your lifestyle, really take a look at what your schedule looks like. Do you have a weekly meeting with your friends and you go to happy hour, or maybe you have a monthly work trip? What will that look like now that you have a baby in the home? What does your partner need during those times? Can you cut some things? What do you need to keep? Do you smoke? What about your lifestyle will need to be tweaked in order to accommodate your new family? And then the second point is doing some really good research. Google is of course a powerful tool on really understanding what tools you need to really baby-proof your house and make it safe for your new family. Second card, Four of Clubs. How would you describe an ideal birth? Birthing technique, midwife, doctor, hospital, home birth, birthing center, etc. I would even add maybe an epidural. Like, what will that look like for you? Are there things that concern you about one of those? What about your partner? What are their concerns about, a different type of ideal birth? Second question, whom do you want to attend the birth? And third, whom, if anyone, do you want to help once you are home? My mom talks about when she gave birth to me, and the first few people that showed up at the hospital were like my uncle and my grandma, but it was like my dad's mom, and she was like, where's my husband and where's my mom? Like, it's like all of her in-laws showing up and she's like going into labor. So awesome that she had the support from the in-laws, and it was really increasing the stress there. Maybe they could have waited a little bit, but that was for my mom, right? So that's gonna look different for everyone, but really set yourself up for success for those first few days, starting with what will happen at the hospital and then what will happen when you get home. All right, Five of Clubs. Describe how you picture your everyday routine as a parent, changing diapers, feeding, playing, cleaning, juggling work, driving, bathing, etc. List 3 ideas you would like to prioritize as part of your family routine. So maybe a nightly family dinner, a day of the week off, etc. So really kind of role play here. What it will be like to be a parent. What do you see on TV, or what do you have from your childhood that you're like, I would love a Sunday night dinner with the family where we invite the grandparents or whatever that might be, right? You guys have the examples, but this is where you can have fun here. What do you want your week to look like as a family? 9 of Clubs. With what religious and or political beliefs and practices, if any, will you raise your child? Maybe you are a Christian and you want to go to church every Sunday, or whatever that means. Maybe you do at-home Bible studies, or you go to temple weekly. Whatever that means for you, politically or religiously, talk about that. I think sometimes with traditions like this, we're starting to talk about traditions, we have an idea that our traditions match with our partners. However, until you really get into it, you may find that these traditions aren't quite what you thought they were. They weren't the perfect fit. You have these little unique things that make you and your family unique. So how do you then transfer that into your new family and with your child, with your partner? And the last card here, King of Clubs. What other families do you admire? And how would you like your family to emulate them? So, I mean, not everybody's going to be like Leave It to Beaver, but maybe that's what you want though. And you want those really solid family values, and you want like that weekly family dinner. Or maybe there's one of your cousins and they just have it down packed. What about that makes you excited? And the reason I chose this card, when I work with clients, I love to work with the theory of solutions focused. And part of that is creating a goal or an image of what you want something to be. Maybe it's part of you or your relationship, right? Whatever you want to work on, you have to picture what that is and start taking steps to get there. So part of that first is then creating that picture, which you can do through examples in your personal life. Okay, the next card deck I have are the Spades, which is the work section. The first one I pulled is 2 of Spades. How will having a child affect your work situation? Will you need to take more time off, change health insurance, negotiate flex time with employer, etc.? So again, we have these ideas that are maybe not matching with our partner. So real practical answer here. What can we do to make this time easier for us? What do we need to change about work, adapt with work? What can we do to make this work-life balance better for us when we have a baby? 6 of Spades. How will you balance competing time demands of work and family? If you have a partner, then the workload balance gets lopsided. How will you address this issue? So maybe, as things get rolling here, maybe one person works later, so, the other partner is at home really taking care of the kid more, taking care of the house and maintaining the house. What will that look like? How can you make sure that that balance is a solid balance that will keep your relationship healthy and connected? 7 of Spades. How will you decide who deals with family during work hours? So example of doctor's appointments, school meetings, emergencies, etc. And then what about non-work hours? So especially when you start having a newborn, you gotta go to the doctor pretty often and do checkups. So who's gonna be doing that? Who has the ability to go to these meetings during work hours? Who has more flexibility with that? Or, can you both do that? Can you both balance that to make it more even? What will that look like to be successful within your family? And then again in the evenings too, non-work hours. How does that change your balance, if at all? Again, I don't know. That's up to you guys, but to really explore more of the day-to-day needs of the time demands. 10 of spades. How will you decide whether your children will have a public or private education? What are your priorities for children's development and activities? So example of education, sports, art, music, etc. So what about public education excites you for your child? What about private education is really exciting for you for the development of your child? What about the cost of both? Maybe homeschooling, right? They didn't say anything about homeschooling on this card. But what will the education of your child look like? And what about that education is highest priority to match the values you want to provide for your family? And the last card I pulled from the spades is the King of Spades. What helps you cope with stress? How do you respond to sleep deprivation? I mean, we all know, even if this is your first kid, you can expect to have very little sleep right out the gate, right? So how do you deal with that? How can you work together through that? And then how does that then increase your stress? And what can you do to cope and really be in a solid place to be an effective parent when stress will be very high and sleep will be very low? And of course, then the last suit is the diamond part of the deck. I pulled 4 cards out here, starting with the 6 of diamonds. Will having children affect where you want to live? Examples of the city, country, apartment, house, etc. How does this affect your finances? Distance from family, less or more rent, cost of living, etc. So again, thinking about the values that you want to have within your family and thinking about what that looks like, what environment is that in, and then the cost then associated with that. The 8 of diamonds, what kind of financial provision, if any, will you provide for your children? Example of bank accounts, education funds, trust funds, etc. What expenses, if any, do you expect to pay once a child has left home? So travel home for holidays, rent after college, a car, etc. So thinking about a lot of these cards, and I kind of took a few less because I wanted to sum it up a bit. A lot of these cards talked about what do you provide financially for your child versus what do you want them to learn on their own financially. So does that mean when they're older that they get a summer job? Does that mean that they do chores around the house when they're younger to earn some money that way? You know, what does that look like, and what do you want to teach them about money and finances to set them up for success? Now, as I'm talking, I heard a question in my head of, okay, Ellie, you're talking about a summer job, and that's really, far down the line. However, I think you'll learn as you go along, obviously, because you'll be a parent and you'll know your child very well and their needs. And if you go into it talking about it now and just having an idea of what that looks like and what values then are tied to that, it's going to make that point more feasible, more connected. And if you go back to presently and now, it's going to help you get excited about having a baby and what their future will look like and what it means to provide for them. Yes, it's starting now, and these are just questions to consider before having a baby. And the questions are here because when couples get to that point, that can be a big point of disconnection for them and can cause a lot of heartache down the line. So setting yourself up for success now when the pressure's low, and just to bounce a quick idea off one another can be really beneficial to not only having a baby now, but of course in their future. The 10 of diamonds, what emotions does money bring up for you? And what habits do you have regarding spending and saving? So again, being practical about money here, what habits do you have? What emotions do you have? Are there things that are a must that you buy every month, or what does that look like if you haven't really broken down your finances together before you have a baby? That's going to be a really solid time to address those finance concerns, habits, and questions that you have for one another. And the very last card I have here is the King of Diamonds. What steps can you take to help your child be ready for independence, financially and otherwise? At what age? So this is a good wrap-up card to, again, break down what that financial responsibility looks like for you, and to then pass on really effective tools for your child. What age does that look like? Do they start, having a piggy bank right away, and you start teaching them learning how to save money and what money is? What does that look like for your child in the future? So that wraps up the card deck. My final takeaways first. As I was reading each question on the card, I wanted to read the whole card for you. So if you are going off this at home, you can have the whole card. But I set the questions back to back, so just make sure you don't do that when you're talking about it. Focus on one question at a time. Really discuss that, and then move on to the second part of the card if there were multiple questions there. That's a big tip. And I think my only other takeaway is, again, to focus on the instructions that I said, where if something starts to get heated or you're not in a really solid space when you're starting to talk about it, take a break. Come back to it. Even if you're pregnant now or you just had a baby now and you really want to start moving through these questions, that's great. Make that a higher priority. However, the highest priority is making sure you're still connected with your partner. So if you are not in a place to do that, then do definitely take a step back and come back to it when you are at a better place to discuss what happened for you, what emotions came up, what concerns came up for you, to make this really a exercise on connection instead of on an argument. So I just checked online. These cards are available through the Gottman Institute. I think they're on Amazon and stuff too. You can pretty much find them anywhere. But they're really good cost, only $13 through the Institute. So you can get it directly through them for a really reasonable cost, and have a tool that you can use, and then you can even pass on to a friend or family member who's also considering starting a family. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know what other questions or concerns are coming up for you in starting a family. It's never too late to explore these questions with your partner, so that way you're on the same page, not only in your relationship, but also together as parents. Hope you guys are doing well. We'll talk soon, guys.